Hello and welcome to the Fox Queenslander podcast season review and grand final preview. Once again, I'm joined by Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister and Matt Gillett. Gentlemen, welcome. It's hard to believe we're at grand final time. Where has the season gone, Wal?
Well, we're all getting so old so quickly, isn't it? But yes, it's been a spectacular season that I think that we've all enjoyed immensely. But it's passed by far too quickly, and to realise that we're at the business end of the season, one game to decide it between being celebrating for the next few months or commiserating. I think it really does show us how lucky we were to be watching football for this period of time.
And the exciting thing, Gilly, is I don't think there's any doubt we have the two best teams playing in the grand final.
Yeah, I'm thinking about at the start of the season though, Vegas. I mean,
Yeah.
That's geez,
It seems a long time ago.
Doesn't it? And yeah, obviously fantastic for the NRL. But yeah, you're right. The two best teams by country mile, so they deserve to be there. Obviously. The big thing I looked at all year, there were teams that got beat by 40 points, right? Then they win by 40 the next week. All right, so the consistency hasn't been there with most. But you don't see that happen with Melbourne and Penrith, do you? If they get beat, they get beat by 8 points or 10 points max. You know what I mean? So, so their defensive, like the way they go about it, things defensively is a different level to the rest of the competition.
And speaking of a different level, Matt, they've stepped it up in the playoffs. They've started to play their best football at the right time of year too.
They have, yeah, definitely. Having Cleary out for so long this season has really rested his body. But even though it's pretty banged up, but to get out there and show a bit of energy. Same with Cam Munster as well. Like he's had that big stint in the sideline this year. Probably a blessing in disguise.
Should be fresh, shouldn't he?
Yeah. For him, I'm expecting him to have a big game. But these two teams are definitely by far the best two in the competition. It's going to make for a great game on this Sunday, which is going to be outstanding to watch.
Yeah, and I think in a funny sort of a way, Cleary's unavailability turned out to be a massive bonus for Penrith.
For Origin, fresh mentally.
Unbelievable. Made sure that, he certainly was fresh. And it was having some of the other players in the team step up and really take control of the Panthers. So it was, it's been shared around the wonderful form. They are one hell of a team.
Ironically, the two key players, Cameron Munster for Melbourne and Nathan Cleary for Penrith, both missed Origin this year due to injury, and their clubs are getting the benefit of that at the right end of the year. Now, guys, you've been around for a long time and played in eras where there were dominant teams. But for a team in the modern era with the salary cap and the extensive travel, et cetera, and all that we go into, but particularly the salary cap, Penrith is playing in a fifth straight grand final. It hasn't been done since Souths, and then before them, the Dragons back in the 60s and 70s. It's an extraordinary achievement, Walt, to make five straight.
Oh, unbelievable. I'm an enormous supporter of Melbourne Storm. Love watching them, love watching the Broncos, and I remember their wonderful years when they were able to take control, but they weren't in the same category as what Penrith are. To be able to chalk up that sort of record, that is unbelievable. And I think the one thing that we haven't heard too much of throughout the course of it is the wonders that have been presented by the coach. Ivan Cleary, he's been unbelievable, and I can remember some discussions. People were talking about what would a winger know about football, telling the forwards how to play. What would a winger know about this? Well, he's certainly gone ahead in an amazing schedule to be able to have the faith and trust for the players, and they certainly do trust him. They follow every direction that he gets, but they are just one perfect team.
Yeah, and the big thing is too, I think the grades below as well. Obviously, they're all on the same page. Obviously, Penrith's the biggest grounding.
The junior base.
Yeah, 100% right. So I played there for a year and I really enjoyed it and seen it how they operate, and then they're so clinical in their lower age groups as well. The six, with Jersey flag or what, 16,
SG ball, Jersey flag upwards, yeah. Yep.
And they have the players that just are knocking on the door all the time. So it's like the old days, when they used to have, we used to have up here, you'd first grade, reserve grade, third grade. And if you were playing first grade, you'd always got there just, to watch the reserve grade. And if someone was in your position who had a good game, you go, oh shit, I need to pull my finger out today. Yeah. And that's what happens every day at Penrith.
But you're also staying together. I was going to bring this up later with regards to our Queensland teams, and particularly the Brisbane Broncos. And Matt, you would know, if you're not playing in the NRL, you're going to,
all different clubs.
Burleigh, you're heading to South Logan, to Wynnum, etc. Not staying together. Penrith, they're all together. Yes. There's a pathway through. They're mingling and all that sort of stuff. I think that is undervalued in that respect. The fact that, the Broncos players just go everywhere. Same with the Titans. The Dolphins have got the Dolphins and Norths, etc. So they split there. They had guys playing against each other in the Host Plus Cup Grand Final a couple of weeks back. So I just think
and on the other side too is like, so all the Penrith coaches talking every day together. So, Kevy, or he's not there now, but he's not talking to the Norse coaches and, and the Redcliffe as well.
This is what we want you to do. This
exactly
is how this club works.
Exactly, 100% right.
Yeah. So 5 straight. Added to that, on the other flip side, you mentioned Ivan Cleary. Craig Bellamy's record is unbelievable. This is his 10th grand final. 15 times he's taken his team to the preliminary final. Yeah. Wayne Bennett has been in 10 grand finals with a couple of clubs. He's done it with one club in a city that is not rugby league based, which could be an advantage, keeping away from the pressures of that. But is he now quite rightly considered up there with Wayne and Jack Gibson, etc., as one of, if not the greatest coach of all time? Particularly if they win come Sunday.
I think without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I agree with you, Gilly. And there'll be, plenty of people with the argument that he's better than Bennett. I can still remember having a look and being in discussion about when he took over, the standard of players that Bennett had. Certainly were all the State of Origin players, Test players from up here, and a couple of others. When Glenn Lazarus came up here, they certainly put together a very strong side. But I do remember having a look at Melbourne and being a little bit confused.
Skeptical.
And thinking, I don't know how far these guys are going to get. Well, didn't I end up on my backside, knocked out by the first place? But it's. I think the one thing that Bellamy will put his hand up straight away and say, but I did my learning under Bennett. I spent plenty of time with him, and there was things to do. But the way that he's been able to do it, I guess the only thing that's risen at a greater level has been his blood pressure at different times. But he's just been able to achieve some enormous things and change some guys that did look to be very good footballers. But he's turned them into superstars.
Yeah.
Absolute superstars.
And no disrespect, Josh King has come on leaps and bounds. You look at Will Warbrick on the wing, and Nick Meaney, and even guys like Ryan Pappenhausen, who has made his way through the Melbourne system. They found Cam Munster. They found Harry Grant. And all those players.
I think it's just his knack to, bring those players down there and turn them into first graders, but, solid first graders are going to show up every week and believe in their system down there. That's just... players that go down there, some players go down there not making the cut at other clubs.
Well, Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, turn their seasons around. They end up playing Origin for Australia because of, what Craig's instilled in them. I believe, he's one of the greats of all time.
Yeah, and Jerome Hughes was playing fullback at the Cowboys and then the Titans, etc. Played one game, I think, at each club. Yeah. And here he is about to lead his team in a grand final.
Well, he's going to win the Dally M.
I think I said that last week, Gilly, didn't we? I walked to Burke and he said, Gilly brought up you were that lazy. You wouldn't walk to the corner.
At the moment,
but if he doesn't win that, the best and fairest player, I'd be absolutely stunned. Yeah. What a performer he is, week in, week out.
Yeah. Normally when we go into a grand final, gentlemen, we're talking about teams, maybe playing in their first. For example, Brisbane last year, or Parramatta when they got beaten by Penrith, or Souths, not having played in one for a while, and whether the experience of I've got two teams that know what it's like to play at this time of year. So that sort of goes out the window when we start talking about Sunday night. So where do we see Penrith as their strength, and from a coaching perspective or a playing perspective, do either of these sides have weaknesses?
Well, I just think Isaiah Yeo, mate, in the forwards for Penrith. I've worked with him with the Australian side, and he's just so calm, and he runs the show. So, and Nathan Cleary is kind of maybe just a peg below him in the pecking order, and they know their pecking order. They know where everyone slots in that pecking order, and and I think it's a really good thing that they got going. And but he just gets the forwards going, and obviously he's the link man with Nathan and Jerome Luai. But as I said, and Dylan Edwards as well, but good side. But he's the one who calms everyone down.
Controlling
yeah,
body.
Exactly, mate.
Yeah.
He's such a good leader.
What about Melbourne? Their strength, does it rely in the calmness of Jerome Hughes? Does it come from the, I suppose, the volatility to a certain extent of Cam Munster, or the guile of Harry Grant?
I think it's both their strengths in both these teams is just their knowing of what their game plan is and sticking at that 80 minutes and waiting for the other team to crack. We've seen on the weekend with Penrith beating the Sharks. It took a fair bit of while there to kick up and end up a big score, but that didn't happen to the back end of the game. So, staying in that grind of footy, putting the ball, booting it up, making your tackles, and waiting for the opposition to make a mistake. And I think they both play that brand of footy. But you're going to look at your players like Luai and Munster to come out and do something outstanding. The fullbacks to come into the game. So it's I suppose a time of when and who cracks first to put those points on board.
And I think he's another game on in his recovery. When he first made that comeback, I was a bit worried about him. I thought perhaps he's not 100% fit, and he needs to recover a little bit better. But going into this one, he'll probably also take the the fear of failure into the last game of the season, and he usually does respond very well in matches of that importance.
Yeah, Melbourne do as well.
I think too, like as you said, but him and Pappenhausen especially, haven't played. I think he played 12 games this year.
Pappy or Munster?
Munster.
Yeah, he hasn't. He's played half of it.
Yeah, anyway, but mate, they're fresh as daisies. I mean, like you could see on the weekend too that they're not running with injury or things like that as well. So I mean, we're Nathan Cleary obviously carrying that shoulder as well. So but when you're going in a grand final, mate, if you haven't got something wrong with you, you didn't have a go.
Add into that mix as well. We talk about Penrith being in 5 straight grand finals, looking to win 4 in a row. Melbourne's beaten them twice this year. Now, does that play a role come Sunday when you're going into a grand final against a team you've beaten twice in the one season?
Can play a funny role. Can overexcite you and give you too much confidence, and also inspire the Panthers,
the others,
enormously. And I'm sure that'll happen. Ivan Cleary, I don't really know what he's sort of like. I've never sort of seen him, but I should imagine that he'll have the players ready to go by the time that they step onto the field, and it won't be in an over-aggressive manner. It'll be in one that they're just quite prepared to put in an extremely physical, confrontational performance out there to make sure that life is as uncomfortable as possible for the opposition.
And added to that, we talk about Penrith and their players, but they've also had to let go a number of players over this period as well. They're going to lose more. Jerome Luai and James Fisher-Harris playing their last game. That may have some sort of motivation factor for them as well. But they've let quality players leave the club because they've had to, because of the salary cap and younger players coming through. You look at Stephen Crichton and Matt Burton at the Bulldogs and Capewell, and you just keep mentioning them on and on and on. So that's a remarkable achievement in itself.
Well, they haven't missed a beat, have they?
No.
You know what I mean? So it's, as Wal said, it's a credit to Ivan Cleary and the staff there. I mean, as I said, that the group below obviously coming through, they know their roles, and obviously it's a well-oiled machine, I think, Penrith. But I'm actually, I can't wait for the game because it's mouthwatering, as you said. Two best teams. Who, as Gillo said as well, who's going to the team to crack first? You know, and necessarily doesn't mean they're going to win the first try scorer, but I did notice too, over the weekend too, that both teams are a little bit slow to start. You know what I mean? And then they got into their grind. So I think both coaches would have spoke about that, and they need to come out a little bit quicker and a bit more aggressive.
Do you think Melbourne is a better side playing in front? Are they a side that controls the game a little bit better, maybe more points in Penrith in that respect?
No, I think you're right. Melbourne like to get in front and stay in front, and their game, if they get to 10 points or 12 points in front, they kind of not shut down shop, but they, they're going to be hard to beat.
Kick
if
to the corners.
Exactly right. Yeah. As Gillo said, it's pretty methodical the way they go about it, especially when they get in front.
A question for all of you, gentlemen. We've spoken about Penrith and Melbourne being the two best sides. In your experience, Wally, Gilly and Matt, have you ever seen a bigger gap between the top two and the rest? And I think it's fair to say it is the top two and the rest in 2024. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, it is, mate. I think all year we've noticed, and especially the back end of this season, seeing these two top teams, you knew that they were going to be in the grand final and coming this week, but I think it's just, their consistency of their game plan and the way they show up every week has been something that holds them up there, whereas those other teams, and Gilly's talked about it before, but the margins between winning and losing every week, and whether you win or lose, it's quite big, whereas these two top teams, it's very small amounts. So I think just that consistency that they have, and they stick to their game plan, they know what they're doing, they know what each player beside them is doing each week, and just showing up for each other is massive. And I know we talk about the coaches, having a big influence on the games and performances, but you sort of got to look at your senior leader group as well at each club, and the buy-in that they instill within the team and the coach. You've got to give credit to those boys as well.
Yeah, we were asked at the start of the year who do we think we're going to be in the finals, and I couldn't see any reason to shy away from the Panthers. They've been magnificent,
unbelievable.
And I'm a Melbourne Storm tragic. Remain that way. Any team that's got Bellamy in charge. They just produce their best, no matter who the names are in the program that we mightn't know. That's at the start of the season. At the end of the year, they're performing to the best of their ability, and it's usually as good as anyone in the competition. So what we do have, though, is just one hell of a grand final coming up. This is going to be a beauty.
Mate, honestly, I agree with you. There is a massive gap between those two clubs and the rest of the competition. So, and I reckon a lot of clubs in the off season, their coaching and their performance team and all that type of stuff, they'll be doing their utmost to work out why these clubs are so good. But as I said, we know Penrith, right? The depth they got, we all know that, and that's what other clubs should be striving for. Is a different setup. We mentioned that earlier here in Queensland, but yeah, it's 1 and 2. And
daylight second.
Yeah. Well, when you asked the question, Mark, I thought, there's the two obvious ones up front. Who could we say is close or could knock them over? And I was thinking for a minute or two, and thought, I can't come up with anyone.
Yeah. Even the Roosters with Sam Walker and Brandon Smith back aren't up to it. They've won 1 of 22 against these two teams recently.
Unbelievable.
But I find it interesting that clubs lament the loss of key players throughout a year. The Broncos lamenting Adam Reynolds being sidelined for so long. They missed the 8. The Roosters lamenting the loss of Sam Walker and Brandon Smith at the back end of the year. They're out of the competition, etc. And there's a number of clubs that will argue that they lost key players and it affected them.
Yeah.
Penrith lost Nathan Cleary for half the year. They're in the grand final. Melbourne lost Cam Munster for half the year and Ryan Pappenhausen for a chunk. Harry Grant playing with a sternum injury. They're in the grand final.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sort of counterbalances that argument to say, well, that's why these two teams are where they are.
And there was a couple of names in the Melbourne Storm team at the start of the season. I thought, gee, there's a couple of new faces coming in here. Does that mean that this could be the year that they have that slide down the ladder? Well, I got an omelette on my face, not just egg.
And you see players from other clubs, Sean Bloor, for example, coming from the Tigers, had an outstanding year, etc. They get Warbrick from Union, Torrin Wishart, they've found. And he's been terrific. I mean, you could just...
And he's been kind of one of the better performers, hasn't he? Tyrone Wishart. Now he can't get into the side really, and I mean he will be on the bench, I think, in the grand final. But geez, he's been sensational, hasn't he? But I reckon the big thing for me is too that I can't believe how a bloke like a Josh King. You mentioned him earlier. I love watching him play. Right, I don't think he's missed a game this year. Right.
Yeah, most probably.
I don't think he has, and he's been that consistent. And as you're saying, and Melbourne continually get those players over the years, over the period of time, and I had a little bit to do with him in the Prime Minister's 13, and lovely fella, and just keen to learn, and then just see he does his job, as Gillo said. Those blokes, they do their job every week, and it doesn't look too exciting for the people watching, but their teammates know what they do, and that's the most important thing.
Is it fair to say too, guys, that the best teams are often the best disciplined sides as well? They don't beat themselves and they don't give the opposition too many opportunities. We're seeing two of the best disciplined teams going head-to-head on Sunday?
Without a doubt, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know about penalties and 6 to goes and all that type of the stats on that, but I'd say they'd be minimal in that area. With
it's not coincidental, is it?
Yeah, no.
And if Melbourne come up with a mistake, bellyache does blow up just a little bit,
sure?
And that tends to entice the players not to make too many mistakes. So on the other side of the coin, Ivan, he's cool, calm and collected all the way through. And I think after a couple of years with him in control, he knows the players backwards. They know him, and they find it very
interesting
easy.
You say that, though. He had a blow up on the weekend, though, didn't he?
About
that try.
Yeah.
And I agree. I agreed with him.
I don't know why we try and complicate things so much. When I hear him talk about right shoulder and all this sort of stuff, it's quite clear. Was the player obstructed regardless of what shoulder he runs at?
Well, Talakai made the contact.
He ran into it.
Yeah, who initiates contact?
And it was in that, they say about inside shoulder.
Don't start me.
But it was no. But it was inside shoulder anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I know, but it should be
It's a try every day of the week.
Anyway, we won't go down that path because we're trying to be positive heading into the grand final. We'll come back. Yeah,
but interesting though, as you said, Ivan. He made
timing,
and he burnt up, and
he did it. He's done that in last. Well, I don't know what it was last year or the year before. Made a comment about
very rarely
or officials.
And Wally just said it before. He's very cool, calm, and collected 99.9% of the time. But he had
if you're
going to
make a comment about a ruling or some issue in the game, you might as well make it in the lead up to the grand final when it gets the attention, as opposed to when you're playing. No disrespect to the Wooden Spooners, the West Tigers. Or
no,
like
it's usually when the coaches love taking the pressure
off the players.
Out of Wayne's coaching
playbook
straight. Rule 101. I'll come back later, gentlemen, and get your final thoughts on the grand final and perhaps a Clive Churchill medalist as we head into the back end of our program today. But now it's time to look at the Queensland teams and their season in review for our 4 Queensland teams, one of which, of course, made the top 8, the North Queensland Cowboys. I think it's fair to say they had a roller coaster of a year. The Broncos, the Dolphins and the Titans. Normally I would start with the Cowboys, the most successful team of the year, but they're not in the headlines at the moment. The Brisbane Broncos have done it again. Initial reactions, gentlemen, you've all played for the Brisbane Broncos, to Kevy Walters' departure from the club and the timing of it all.
Oh yeah, well, I was dumbfounded. And I'm not privy to the review that went on. I'm just saying when you do reviews, and I've been part of a couple of them, and when you don't have to put your name to it, it's fraught with danger. But anyway, you'd like to think everyone's pretty honest in those situations anyway. But I thought after being so close, winning the grand final last year, I thought Kevy deserved another year at least. So I feel for him. And obviously we're not privy to what's going on behind closed doors and stuff like that in the review. But I thought he was hard done by.
Well,
yeah, I think last year's grand final probably increased our expectations. We thought could be a magic year coming up. The boys are going to go well. I think it was fairly evident the disappointment on Kevy's face so often throughout the course of the season. And found it a little bit difficult, but I've got to say I was extremely surprised that he was moved on. Great year last year, not so good this year at all. But it's a big decision to be made against a guy that's been so wonderful for the success of the club.
Yeah, if you have a list of the top 5 or top 10 heart and soul, the heartbeat of the Brisbane Broncos, Kevy is certainly included in that list.
Yeah.
Matt, you are the most recently retired of the Broncos, so most probably have a sort of understanding more of the modern game and the way players and coaches interact. What was your initial response? I know you've been on holidays, but
no, again, like with these boys, pretty shocked to again the timing of it and what's happened and where he come to the club as well. You know, they were struggling big time when Kev arrived, and we all know what kind of character and the passion and how emotionally he is attached to that club. To bring him to almost win the GF last year, and then to flick him this year is it's quite shocking. But again, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors and whether the playing group and everyone's seeing eye to eye there, but there's obviously something that's been going on, and you can sort of tell a bit out there on the paddock in their performances and the way players sort of interact. As being a former player, you can always tell what's going on and something's just not quite right. So again, we don't know exactly what's going on, but the review or the process of this happening hasn't just happened over a week. It's probably been the back end of the season. There's probably been discussions with Kevin and the hierarchy there. And
I suppose it is fair to say the back end of the season was quite traumatic, particularly the fall-off in the last few weeks. And you spoke about it earlier, Gilly, when it comes to defence and the number of points conceded. The Broncos' defence pretty much disappeared at the back end of the season. Those, particularly the last 2 games, the loss to the Dolphins when the season was on the line, most probably sticks in the mind the most for Broncos fans and the Broncos hierarchy. That is the lasting impression is always the one that people seem to hang on to. Seems such a long time ago that grand final was almost there to win, but that last couple of months is just lingers, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier with the tough. They've had a few injuries, quite a few this year, and the really good clubs get through those things. But yeah, I as I said, I feel for Kevy, but the players got to take a fair bit of responsibility. Don't worry about that. And it's easy to move one coach on and then half a dozen players. And mate, I think next year they'll come out and have a fairly good year because, mate, the scrutiny's been on them so much, and rightfully so. But last year they were close to winning the grand final, but they didn't win. Don't get me started on participation awards and stuff like that crap. But it's a thing that the players, individually, obviously they've done their reviews and stuff like that now, individual reviews. So, but I hope a lot of them said, mate, this is on me. I didn't have a good season, or I went okay this part of the season and was ordinary in this part of the season. The honesty part of it needs to be accountable in that area.
Do you reckon we need the sandpit back, Wall, and get Gilly there? Knock a bit of sense into it, eh?
Yeah, that'd be good, as long as they get ready for a few around here. Like we used to do.
Oh.
No, but the this year's team, without being disrespectful, it just seemed as though that they were pretty flat. After about a third of the way through the season, nice things weren't in full view. That's our job as individuals. Like the coaches can tell you that all the game plans and stuff like that. It's your job, isn't it, as an individual, to bring the energy and the commitment to the team. The coaches can't do that for you. And obviously we've had some really good coaches there. Arthur Beecham was one of the best I've ever had. But I mean, I didn't want to let him down. But once I get on the field, it's got to be within you. What your commitment to you. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down. And that's the way I went about it. It wasn't I had to love the coach to death and all that crap. You know what I mean? Like that kind of does my head in sometimes. You don't have to think the coach is the best person in the world. I don't want to let you blokes down when I get on the footy field. So anyway, that's
So we all agree to fail for the Broncos this year, not making the 8 as a fail and quite a dramatic drop from last year. What about the Dolphins heading into 2025? Out of 2024, they beat Newcastle in Newcastle. They're in the 8. How do you rate their season, and what are your thoughts heading into 2025 for them?
Yeah, I think obviously second season into it, and Wayne's come and implemented some great things there and bringing a great senior leader group with the Melbourne boys, and that again we talked about before, but the work ethic that they show and understand to have a good senior leader playing group there to build off. I think they've done that very well, and they're only getting better and better with the players they're getting and recruiting. But again, for next year moving forward, Christian Wolf's there, but I think I'd give them a pass for this season, and they've showed signs that they can play some quality footy. Again, a few positional changes and injuries as well throughout their season. Marshall King missed a fair bit in their season. He's, I think, one of their best players.
How good was Maxi Plath?
I think going really well. So
the player of the year there.
Yeah, he was.
He won everything, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, I think the playing group they have there have definitely built on hard work, and I think there's better times in front of them.
And it wasn't a surprise, though, was it, with Max taking out all the awards? Yeah. What efforts? But I got to say, I probably thought that they would have been a little bit better this year. The Finns, second time round with Bennett, you tend to learn a lot. His requirements, injuries did play a little bit of
a bit of depth too there at the moment.
So I probably thought that when they had that a little bit of pain associated with the failures that they had. It could have been a wonderful year next year. Unfortunately, Bennett's not going to be in charge, so that's going to be a little bit difficult for them. But
and one of their discoveries, Trey Fuller, sadly suffered an ACL against the Northern Pride, so he won't be back, if at all, next year. Yeah. So I would think that maybe means the Hammer plays at fullback for most of the year. Who knows? That's still a long way to go. But the loss of Trey Fuller playing for Redcliffe against the Northern Pride, a big blow for the Dolphins to end the year. So a pass for the Dolphins. And I say this with the utmost respect, but the basket case of the Queensland teams, the Titans, you've had a bit to do with the Gold Coast Gilly from their establishment as well with your great mate Cardi. They always promise so much, but just find a way to let all their supporters down.
Frustrating, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're one of the clubs, as I mentioned earlier, that win by 40 and lose by 40.
Yep.
The consistency stuff is they don't know how to spell the word consistency. So I just think they need a hard edge forward, like a good front rower now to get him.
Tino was a big blow for
them. 100% right. Yeah, and for Queensland too as well. Don't worry about that. He's the alpha male of the side. But we said the good clubs overcome that. But I think and they just get me in all the time. But I talk about outside backs, right? Like that Pereira, I think he scored the
Lofty Pereira, leading try scorer.
Exactly right. Exactly, 100% right. So, but they score one of the best tries you've ever seen in your life, and then they drop 3 sitters. Not 3, but you know what I mean. Like then they drop balls like that and just put you under the pump all the time. So
and they have to work out who their halves are, don't they? The Titans?
Exactly right. Yeah, Kieran Foran's obviously getting older.
Yeah, mention that because it just seems to be a consistent problem for them. They don't. They have trouble putting.
Well, Jaden Campbell's got to be in there somewhere, isn't he? Like in the halves.
And where's the best spot for AJ Brimson?
Yeah.
Still trying to figure that out.
The centres, I think, aren't they?
Moved around like a chess piece.
But is that his best spot? I don't know.
It's probably not his best spot, but he's.
Because Keanu Kinney was their player of the year.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So they do have some good young.
Got
they're
a bit
all
of
small
pace
too.
Little
blokes. But anyway,
and David Fafita.
Well, he's got. It's time. Is it not?
Yeah.
Time's running out for David. How does he want to be remembered as a footballer? Right, a bloke that signed $1 million contract and didn't deliver, or someone that actually realised the light bulb is.
Sam Birrell's, obviously had a year there now, so obviously he you'd think he'd have a bit better of a combo going with with his forwards now as well. So, yeah.
Fail again?
Yeah, it was a fail.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys, they had, I think, a roller coaster season. They lost a couple of players. They let a couple of players go. Val Holmes, Chad Townsend won't be there next year, just to name two. They made the 8, but your thoughts on their season?
No, again, like, Gilly's mentioned it throughout this. They're winning games by a big margin and losing the same. So, and I think when you are going well and you're getting the pats on the back, and you can read into how you are going as an individual or a team, and turn around the next week, and it's a matter of showing up every week. And the way I sort of used to play my footy, Gilly mentioned it before about showing up and not letting your teammate down. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's about just doing the hard work, doing the 1%ers that people don't see watching the game live, but internally in your reviews you're getting pats on the back for, and that's something that these teams, Cowboys included, they've got to start showing that grit and that determination to do those 1%ers and do something to make your teammates' job easier.
I think. Sorry, you go.
They didn't get to enjoy the season as much as they could, and I know it's going to be a trip down. Me repeating myself here again, but I just could not understand Jason Taumalolo. Him being used in very short spurts when he was getting onto the field, and perhaps he's got an injury that I don't know of, or the coach hasn't sort of revealed. But I thought that he was a guy that and has been over the last few years in particular that displays enormous attacking thrills every time he carts the ball, almost with monotonous regularity. But that wasn't there for them this year, and they just had a little bit of trouble, I thought, with the back three. Injuries can play a little bit of a bad role in a season, and they had a couple of bad ones as well that really were almost impossible to make up for.
You mentioned the back three too, like obviously Cole Felt. He's retired.
He's going to England.
What a great warrior he's been for them, and Scotty Drinkwater's been a bit hot and cold this year. So and
saw him play some great games.
Some
wonderful games.
But that, and I thought that was a great move. The heart and soul of them, Tommy Dearden and Reuben Cotter.
Yeah.
They just give their best every week. And they're just great leaders for that team. But I think the middle of their ruck though, and they need someone there to help Reuben Cotter a little bit more in the middle. I don't know what you think, Gillo, but it's defensively in the middle. I think they got found wanting a little bit as well. So
Jordan McLean, he's there. He's a bit older now, but someone in that middle, a bit more mobile. You got Jace there as well, but
Griffin Neame, he comes on as well. But I mean, they just seem to lack a little bit there.
Well, I'm going to give the Cowboys the same report card I used to get a lot at school. Pass. Lacks concentration and must do better.
Little comment.
So pass. Yeah, but lacks concentration and can do better.
Can do better.
Yeah. I think they showed what they're capable of at times. The Cowboys, and a little bit like a couple of years ago when the Titans made the 8, but lost more games than they won. And everyone sort of thought it was a successful season because they made
and
the 8.
And they were that close. The Roosters beat them by 4 points or something.
But just because you make the 8, sometimes can wallpaper the cracks, can't it? And I think the Cowboys could have performed or should have been higher up the table. They're a better side than Manly and Newcastle and maybe even the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs really improved. But, for mine, that was my report card from school. Pass, lacks concentration, and can do better. So
least you passed.
51 out of 100 is okay, Gilly. That's what it is. Now, back to the grand final, gentlemen. I reckon this is one of the most intriguing grand finals we've seen for some time. I didn't bring any coins in with me for my tip, but let's go around.
It's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, let's go around. Well, can I have a tip, and can I have your Clive Churchill medalist?
I reckon I've changed my mind.
Yeah.
I'll phone a friend.
Yeah.
What do you think? One of the boys.
Might sound stupid. The Panthers, Cleary, to be the key playmaker.
You met the Clive Churchill.
The Churchill medalist.
Yeah, I was driving in here today and I've got no idea really, to be honest. But I think because Melbourne have a bit less injuries, and Pappenhausen and Munster are a little bit more fresher. I think I'm leaning towards Melbourne, and Harry Grant to get the Clive Churchill. So
it's interesting you talk about injury. I'm still not overly convinced about Nathan Cleary, even though he's done his he's done that at the press conference.
Who they have on the bench to? He come and played the last 4 minutes.
He came off with
Schneider.
5 to go. He came off with 5 to go.
Yeah, Schneider, mate. Yeah.
And they're all saying they're not worried about it.
Actually, and I know, Ivan's.
You change it.
Is a great. No. Ivan's a sensational coach. I would have brought him off earlier than that. Like I would have brought him 10, 15 minutes, and I know because they had the game won. Anyway, that's.
I'm just yet to be convinced. But having said that, Nathan Cleary on the field at 70% is better than anyone they're going to be able to put out there.
Well, mate, look last year.
Yeah.
The Broncos were home, but Nathan Cleary is still on the field.
Yeah. Gillo?
I'm going to go Melbourne. I think, they're going to start well. Yeah, just watching Penrith on the weekend, they were a bit clunky very early and obviously come away with a win and stay in that grind style of footy. But I think if Melbourne, get those first points on the board and just go on with it and stay in the grind, I think they'll put a pretty solid performance in it. And I'm just liking what they're playing with, the energy and the uplift that they play with. And then Cam Munster for the Clive.
And if you want to know why I've been backing the Panthers in this one, I have had such shocking tips recently. And I'm a chronic Melbourne Storm supporter. Melbourne all medal. So I figure if I back the Panthers,
Melbourne will win.
Melbourne will win.
Reverse logic.
There you go.
Okay. Look, I it is a toss of the coin. I said before. I'm going Penrith for basically the fact that they've got a team there this weekend that has the chance to create history. And they're a chance of winning 4 premierships in a row, which I don't think we'll ever see again in our time. And they've got a chance to farewell members of that 4 in James Fisher-Harris and Jerome Luai. And I just think that might, for someone like a Nathan Cleary and Dylan Edwards, etc., might lift them just above Melbourne. And with no confidence whatsoever, I'm just using that logic, the fact that history beckons. And they seem to be a side, a club, Penrith, or a team there that the weight of history doesn't concern them at all. They just go and play footy. But at the back of their mind, they know that come Sunday night, if they win, they will be amongst the greats of all time. And 2 members of that 4 premiership winning side won't be there next year. So I just see this Sunday maybe, if you're looking for something to get you over the line, I don't know. Anyway, so Penrith and Clive Churchill medalist. With you can't. It's very hard to go past Nathan Cleary. But to give us another person,
Dylan Edwards.
Yeah. I'm
reading your mind.
I'll just go Dylan Edwards, who in the last few years has just come on leaps and bounds.
A quiet achiever.
Yeah. What we do all agree on though is that it is going to be a fitting end to a season that has had its ups and downs, but the 2 best teams are at the right spot at the right time, and the best team will win on Sunday. And it should be a cracking game. Gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining me for our season review and grand final preview. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy the game, more importantly, on Sunday. Matt Gillett, Wally Lewis, Trevor Gillmeister. You done, mate?
I'm done, mate.
Thanks so much for watching the Fox Queenslander podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of the Fox Queenslander podcast. If there's a Fog you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.